Hello, I'm Megan.
And I'm Ben, and welcome to Lesson 7 of our Huntsville.
Did you ever wonder how people traveled from place to place back in the olden days? Well, in today's lesson, you'll find out everything from horses to boats to trains and planes.
Today's vocabulary words that you'll need to look for are canal,
Flatboat,
keelboat,
steamboat,
streetcar,
and transportation. And now here's our host, Tim Hall, with your lesson.
Thanks, kids. Now, when settlers like John Hunt first arrived at the Big Spring, the only way for them to get from place to place was on horseback or by walking. Travel over the wooded mountains and down the muddy waterways was difficult for early settlers. Transportation was important for the movement of goods and people from place to place. Early Huntsville residents turned to the water for fast transportation. The Tennessee River offered a valuable route downstream, but it was often tough to get back up the river once you reach your destination. Farmers often shipped their cotton harvest downstream on flatboats. Flatboats were made from flat planks of wood nailed or tied together. Flatboats didn't have an engine. It simply floated down the river. Keelboats were also used to transport cotton. A keelboat had a rudder and sails, so it could travel downstream and upstream.
The flatboats, I think, as you know, only could go downstream on the rivers. The keelboats could go both downstream and upstream. And a lot of times there were things that needed to go from downstream to upstream. So it was a much better way to do it than trying to carry things overland. The roads were not very good in early Alabama, so it was a much better way to move goods, transport people, goods, everything.
City leaders needed an easier way to transport the cotton sold in Huntsville Square to the Tennessee River. The Indian Creek Navigation Company was commissioned to build a canal to the Tennessee River from downtown Huntsville. The new waterway started at the mouth of the Big Spring, traveled through Indian Creek, and finally reached the Tennessee in the small community of Triana. By the 1850s, steamboats regularly cruised up and down the Tennessee River filled with cotton and travelers. Steamboats used steam power to turn a giant water wheel, which moved the boat through the water. Steamboats changed water travel, and rivers became busy thoroughfares.
You could carry certainly more goods, more people, more of everything on board the steamboats. And because they were steam powered, it was much easier to go upstream than it had been even with the keelboats. Also, because they were larger, it was also much faster, of course, to carry goods, and also much cheaper.
By 1851, the Memphis and Charleston Railroad Company expanded the railways to connect the river with downtown Huntsville. Farmers started to transport their harvest on the rails as well as on the water.
The cotton farmers in Madison County, which probably grew more cotton than anywhere else in the state, were looking for far more efficient means to ship their cotton. And so they decided that we needed the railroad here really bad. So they decided that they would help Memphis and Charleston build a depot in Huntsville.
The railroad company soon expanded the railways to connect Huntsville to the rest of the country. Eventually, the railroad was connected to the Nashville and Chattanooga route, and people could travel to just about anywhere.
When the railroad came through, life totally changed. Families could go visit their relatives in other states and other nearby towns at the other end of the state and do it in a much more timely fashion.
Huntsville became a focal point for local travel and shipping. Huntsville's railroad depot became the heart of business for the city. This building was built to withstand time. Its 18-inch walls now hold a museum instead of busy travelers. Huntsville had the first streetcar system in the state. This was a form of public transportation powered by electricity. The streetcars were a link that connected the mill villages to downtown Huntsville. Huntsville residents relied on trains for years, but the invention of the airplane revolutionized travel. Huntsville started operating its own airport in 1941. You can still see some of the markings on what's left of the runway behind me. The first airport was built here near Kidspace Playground off South Memorial Parkway. Famous visitors like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., President John F. Kennedy, and countless others used the airport to reach the city. As the city expanded, it outgrew the small airport. Now we use the Huntsville-Decatur International Airport. Countless flights touch down each day. and more than 1 million travelers venture through the airport every year. After the Second World War, more families were able to purchase their own cars, and the federal government started the interstate highway system. Now Huntsville is connected to many destinations by highways and interstates. We can travel to Birmingham or Nashville in less than 2 hours and visit family and friends many miles away by simply hopping in a car. Now, here's the Our Huntsville Kids with a review.
And now here's a look back at today's vocabulary. Canal, a channel for water to flow through.
Flatboat, a boat made of planks of wood that relied on the river current to move it.
Keelboat, a boat that had sails and rudders to help move it up and down the river.
Steamboat, a river craft with engines powered by boiling water.
Streetcar, a trolley that travels on rails through city streets. And transportation, the system people use to travel.
And now back to our host, Tim.
Join us for Lesson 8 when we'll show you how education changed our lives. For Our Huntsville, I'm Tim Hall.